In this video, I'm going to show you how to improve your guitar phrasing. In fact, I use these same phrasing tips and strategies to train students to become pro-level players. How do you do that? I'll show you later. So if you want to improve your lead guitar playing phrasing, you're in the right place. Today I'm going to take you through a series of guitar phrasing tips that will help you become a better lead guitar player. I'll walk you through the process step by step. When I was getting my lead guitar playing together, I had developed some pretty good guitar technique and some speed, but my playing just lacked something. What I didn't realize at the time was that my guitar playing was missing great phrasing. The transformation occurred for me when I learned guitar phrasing from 3 different sources. First, I had a really great guitar teacher. Second, I listened to really great players. And third, I was listening to really great singers and how they phrased things when they sang. I've taught these things to thousands of guitar players from around the world, and today I'm going to introduce the topic to you. So here's a quick overview of what's in the video. First, you probably already know that becoming a better guitar player is determined not only by what you play, but how you play. So think of what you play as the words you use when you speak. Now think of how you play as the tone of voice, the body language, and the meaning of the words that you speak. Guitar phrasing is how you play something, and great guitar phrasing is about getting the how part right. So in this guitar phrasing lesson, I'm going to show you how to develop better phrasing on the guitar so that when you play something, you know what to do to make it sound better. Next, I'll show you how to take a very simple guitar lick and apply better phrasing in various ways so that you see how you can improve any lick by applying the same guitar phrasing tips to any other lick that you want to play. I'll explain each phrasing tip for you, then I'll demonstrate it so you can see and hear how it works. So let's take a look at our first example. I'm going to play for you a very simple, very boring little melody. It's nothing special, and I purposely chose this melody to show you that if the tips that we use work on this melody, it'll work on any little melody or lick. So let's listen to the backing track and hear how this goes. All right, here we go. So you can hear that it's pretty simple, pretty straight. There's really no life to it. It's pretty boring intentionally. Now let's take a look at example number 2. Okay, so what we have there is a string bend, obviously, in the beginning, and then we're going to have some heavy vibrato in measure 2, and then I took the last 3 notes of the phrase and moved them down 1 octave. I slid into the 7th fret, no vibrato here, and then I slid down to the final note, the 6th fret. So the last 3 notes are like this. Now, that little slide there at the end is really important because you don't just hear going to that 6th fret directly. Instead, you're hearing that's the phrase that we're listening to, or the phrasing element that we're listening to. With some nice vibrato at the end. So let's hear that whole thing again. Okay, cool. So it's not the world's greatest phrase, but it's a whole lot better than the original. So now we're starting to bring in some life with the string bend and the vibrato and the slides, and now we're starting to get somewhere. Let's take a look at the next example, number 3. So now you hear what that sounds like. So what we have going on here is we've got a bend off the 17th fret. We're bending up a whole step. And then after we bend up a whole step, we bend up another step and a half on top of that. So altogether, it's 2.5 steps, or a perfect fourth, that we're bending from that 17th fret. It's a bit of a challenge, a little bit rough on the fingers, but it sounds really, really cool to make that 2.5 step bend from the 17th fret. Then after all that, in measure 2, we're coming down and playing just the 17th fret without being bent. Putting in some nice vibrato there. You don't have to do your vibrato as thick or as wide as I am. It's just my preference to do it that way. And then we've got the 15th fret. And then we've got the 16th fret here, which is not in the key. Okay, it's not in the key of F sharp minor, which is the key we're in. It's actually a wrong note out of the key, but we bend up quickly from 16 to 17. So we're really doing this, but instead of doing 15 to 17, you hear 15 getting to 17 by way of bending a half step from 16. And then 14th fret. Nice vibrato here, and then slide off it when you're done. So altogether, it's like this. Pretty cool. Now the phrase is starting to have more life to it. It's really starting to sound like something. May not still be your favorite phrase you've ever heard in your whole life, but it's a whole lot better than where we started with just, 6 or 7 dry, boring notes shown in example 1. Let's take a look at the next example. All right, so let's talk about what's going on here in example 4. I'm starting off on the 18th fret. That note is not in F sharp natural minor, but it is the raised 7th, so it is in harmonic minor. But what we're really doing here is we're just bending up from 18, bending up to 19, so it's a half step bend. And then once the bend is there, we apply vibrato to the bent note. So that sounds pretty cool. Notice that the vibrato is delayed. Okay, and that's a useful tactic to not always apply vibrato immediately to a note. So that's how it starts. And then from there, we've got these two notes, 17 and 19. And then we've got the 24th fret. And you can do it with your 4th finger, but if you're going to apply heavy vibrato with your left hand, then sometimes using your 3rd finger might be better. And it's really important to try and get that note to sustain and ring out as much as possible. And one of the ways to help you do that is to make sure that when your 3rd finger goes onto the 24th fret, that no part of the fleshy part of the fingertip goes over the fret wire of the 24th fret where the note, where the string is vibrating. Because just a little bit of the fingertip that slides over this fret can get in the way of the string and actually start muting it unintentionally. So you have to be really careful. I know the space is really small, and if you've got big fat fingers like I do, it's even harder to make sure that that finger is not starting to touch the string at the point where it's vibrating, which is right here at the crown of the fret. So you want to be careful of that. So one thing you can do if you don't want to use the left hand finger to apply vibrato because it's difficult to do vibrato up here without killing off the sustain, you can play this. You can use your 4th finger, which is smaller, and now once the string is ringing out, you just take your fist and you fist the bridge. And you can do vibrato that way. Of course, it only works if you've got a floating bridge. If you've got a fixed bridge or your bridge is otherwise not floating, you can't do that. All right, so then the next part, measure 3, we play the 15th fret, and then we're going to play the 17th fret, and we're going to bend, but we're not going to bend in the normal way. We're not going to do this. Instead, we have to pre-bend the note. Sometimes this is referred to as a ghost bend. We're going to play 15, then we're going to play 17, but we're not going to pick it yet. We're going to bend the string up a full step, and then we're going to play it while it's bent. And then release the bend. And then for the final measure, we're going to pre-bend the 14th fret, just a half step, pre-bend or ghost bend. Then you release it. And do vibrato. You can slide off it if you want to. So that's like this. Sounds really cool. As I play through example 5, you'll see that I'm going to start with a double bend on fret 17. Bend up a full step, then go up 2.5 steps. Come down 17. Okay, cool. So what's going on here? We've already had a previous example where we had this double bend where you bend 17 up a full step and then you go all the way up to 2.5 steps. You sustain the note and you come back down in 17. So we've already done that in a previous example. What's different or new in this example is that we're trying now to fill in some of the space that would naturally be there in measure 2. So without this, it would sound this way. It would basically sustain that note for the whole measure. All I'm doing is just trying to fill in the gap to there. And that's the start of measure 3. There's just little triplets. Now, this phrase is not particularly hard except for the first beginning bend where we go up, really high. You really feel it there in your fingers. What's important here is to not let your own adrenaline or your own emotions run away from you. And this can happen when you really dig into this, especially when the vibrato is pretty thick right there. You get, I don't know about you, but I get pretty excited. You got to be calm right away for the rest of the lick. Otherwise, you start going out of time, you start rushing it, it starts getting sloppy because the adrenaline excites you and then it makes it hard to immediately calm down for the rest of the phrase. So now we're going to have the big double bend in measure 1. We're going to have heavy vibrato in measure 2. Measure 3, we're going to calm down. In measure 4, we're going to fill up the space with arpeggio and a scale. Now we're going to calm down here. I'll fill the measure. All right, so breaking this down, again in measure 1, just like the previous example, we've got the big double bend up a full step, then go up to 2.5 steps. Then we've got heavy vibrato on fret 17 in measure 2. Then measure 3, it's really important, even though it's really simple and there's only 2 notes, we have to calm down right away because what we want here, or at least in this example, what I'm going for is heavy vibrato in measure 2. Then in measure 3, there's vibrato, but it's not thick and heavy. It's not this. It's more subtle here. It's calmer. So emotionally, from measure 2 to measure 3, we've got to get our own adrenaline to calm down from this to this. And then into the arpeggio. And what's going on here is so we're just outlining this. This is A major, little A major arpeggio. That note is not part of the arpeggio, but it is part of the scale. That's the 4th. Then we're going to go up to A and come down the scale. And then when the chord changes, we can just bend up from 17 to there, or you can play whatever you want over that next chord, which is F sharp minor. All right, example 7 is really just a combination of examples 5 and 6. What we're doing here is we're taking measure 2 from example 5, and we're taking measure 4 from example 6, and we're putting them together, and that's what's going on in example 7. All right, so let me break this down for you measure by measure. In measure 1, we've got the same thing that we've had for the last few examples, the big double bend on fret 17. And then measure 2 begins the same way as previously, the heavy vibrato on fret 17. Then from here, we're going to play some slower, calmer eighth note triplets right down the scale. So that's what's going on there. And then we've got these two notes, which are calm. Calm vibrato, not this. I mean, you could do that if you want, but what I'm going for is just calm down. And then we've got the arpeggio and scale that we had in the previous example. And then for the last note, you could bend up 17 again. So that's what that whole example sounds like. It's pretty cool to combine some of these ideas as we're doing here. The best way to use these ideas is to apply them to other licks. So it's great if you want to look at the tablature and learn the little phrases that I've shown you, but really the gold here for you is to take the concepts and apply it to any other lick or phrase that you have. That's really what we're going for. The point of all this is not just to give you some licks that you can copy, it's to give you concepts that you can plug and play and apply and integrate with other things that you're already doing or other things that you already know. That's how to really practice this stuff. So please don't get stuck on the examples. Let me know which of the ideas that you liked most, which was most useful to you, and let me know by leaving a comment below. And if you like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you want to learn how to make any lick you know sound even better, I'll show you how in my new free ebook titled The Secret to Adding Fire and Emotion to Any Guitar Lick. It's totally free. Click on the link below to download your copy and make every lick that you know sound even better.